Hey, this is Mike Shank, and this is the At Speed podcast presented by Rocky Fork Company.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We're back with another episode of At Speed podcast starring Mike Shank with yours truly, Tim May. And of course, today we've got an even more special guest on. Mike, he's probably worth more than me and you combined, right? Jack Harvey. Welcome, Jack.
Yeah. Not sure about that. I've been to Mike's house.
Hey, I've been to Mike's house. Jack, where are you sitting right now as we speak to you, man? Give some people an idea of what a race car driver in quarantine, what his digs are.
Well, I just before quarantine started, actually moved into a new apartment complex in downtown Carmel, it's like 30 minutes north of Indianapolis. And I'm actually just sat on my balcony right now. I've got a pretty pleasant view. There's not too many people about, but yes, it's nice place to be for sure.
How the term I use a lot is champing at the bit, which means you're eager to go. It's like a horse in the Kentucky Derby gate, ready to run. Explain where you are on a scale of 1 to 10 as far as champing at the bit goes.
10.
Yeah.
Quarantine's hard for so many reasons, but I think I know Michael's felt this for a bit. We've worked for like 2 years of part-time racing, plus probably 6 months before that, with this goal of going full-time, and finally we're on like the doorstep of it. We get to the first race and then we don't even get to turn a lap. So it's a cumulative of so much hard work that we just want to be there, and then obviously the current pandemic has made it even harder for everybody. But the thing that we have gained a little bit of experience on the last couple of years is knowing when you have to turn it on and turn it off. So actually our part-time season might pay dividends now, because the guys know what it's like to do this, and we'll see. But don't care where the first race is, don't really care when, just want to get to it.
Same with you, right, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have, I'm trying to think, Jack, I think we had from, let's call it April of 2017 until now. It's taken us this long,
Absolutely.
More or less, right? So just to get this whole program together, and it's so much more than just the driving of race cars. The guy, Jack has recognized it fairly early on that he's got to be able to do a lot of different things, and this took a huge effort on all of our parts, and certainly a guy I met from Jack and Jim Meyer is now my partner at MSR. So a lot has happened in 3 and some years, I would say.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey, Jack, I want to, before we move on, because I'm, basically we're getting into like the life and times of Mike Shank, from other perspectives. You know what I mean? Sort of a roast. No, I'm just joking. But you can roast him all you want, as far as I'm concerned. But to be there, like you just touched on, to be there in St. Petersburg, ready to go, that just added to it, didn't it? I mean, of just being right at the cusp, and then being told, bingo, we're going home.
Yeah, I mean that sucked. Because you do the preseason testing. All the conversations, all the work that goes in, very much behind the scenes, which actually probably requires not more effort, but it's the race weekends are like the shop window. The 10%, and it's the effort and the hard work comes from when last season finished to getting ready for the first race. The first race is just hopefully an end result of that hard work. So to literally be there and then get told like Thursday that practice was being postponed a little bit, and then by the time I actually even got to the track was weird, because it was Friday. Was it Thursday?
We went home Thursday. When did we go home? Thursday night.
Yeah. So then basically you're there on like setup day, and they're like, yep, definitely don't rush to like get here. And then you're like, okay, it's a bit weird. And then flights got cancelled, and my dad flew in. I'm sure my dad flew in Thursday, and he flew out Saturday morning.
Wow.
It's just that turnaround time is so severe. That you kind of just like, well, what just happened there? And then it's kind of like it hits you in the face, and then you process it. And then it wasn't even until I got back to Indy did I realize that like what's going on?
Yeah.
And I think the hardest thing is obviously no one knew. Easier or worse, being at the track and getting that news, probably worse, because then at that point you are ready to go. Like, you're mentally there. The whole team was there. The car was prepped, ready to go. The tent was up, ready to go. Like, literally, all we had left to do was get in the car and turn a lap.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, it had to be crazy. Did the iRacing thing satiate your appetite a little bit, or did that just add to your frustration? Yeah, exactly.
Maybe a bit of both. I mean,
you know what I mean?
I thought as a group, we, took the positives that were, that you can take out of iRacing, and I think iRacing themselves did a really good job. After that, I'm pretty much ready just to drive the real car.
Yeah, yeah.
I wasn't particularly sad when the 6 weeks was over on that.
Yeah, I got you, man. Although you do have that nice equipment now. If you want to sell it to me at a bargain, I'll take it. But let's jump into this, Mike. What attracted you? What told you that Jack Harvey should be your standard bearer when it came to your foray into IndyCar racing seriously, and to get to the full-time, the full-time escapade here that we're waiting to see start. But what just told you he was the right guy?
Well, the truth is that we were put together in a prearranged marriage. I mean, we really didn't know each other, right?
Yeah.
We didn't know each other at all. We were kind of placed there. He was supposed to run in Alonso's car in 2017. And our group, MSR, was supposed to run Stephen Wilson. And Alonso, once again, is involved in something and and got us all shuffled around. Now, that's how it started, Tim.
Yeah.
But, Jack is like a few other people that we've talked to this week, like an Oswaldo. Jack recognizes immediately it takes more than just talent behind the wheel to make it work. Jack is cut from the same cloth that Oz is with regard to loyalty and doing what he says he's going to do. It's the way he was brought up. It's the way his dad and mom are, sister even, I would say. And I sensed that kind of right away. There's probably about 12 times that he or I, during this 3.5 years, could have said, you know what, I'm going to do something else. And we just kind of kept promises to each other, and we just kind of kept chugging down the road through mostly good times. We've had tough times too, but we set a plan, recognized early that he's fully capable of doing it as a driver that is not only a great driver, but also deserves an opportunity. But then he worked off the track too to help my side of the aisle financially make it happen.
Yeah.
So, and those are the kind of things it takes to really. There's very few people that show up and just drive race cars and that's all they do. They have to be involved in other things, and Jack is very good at that.
What you're saying is he's a jack of all trades?
That's funny. Funny, Tim.
Thank you.
I should be here. Low-hanging fruit. That's low-hanging.
I shall be here all the week. Okay. Jack, what was that moment in your career, where you decided or you knew that, hey, this is not only did you want to pursue this, but that you were pretty damn good at it? Was it the British Formula 3 Championship? I mean, what was it that told you that you had the goods to do this at the elite level?
I think that realistically came for me in 2006. I was still go-karting at that point, but I was the youngest ever winner of the Junior British Championship. And then that was in 06. And in 07, I won the Europeans, which, from where I came from was a big deal. And that's kind of when I realized that, maybe we had something that we could just keep pursuing. I guess in single-seater racing, the big moment came for sure when we won British Formula 3, because we want to be champions. We come here to win, and I'd finished second in Formula BMWs and thought we had a good crack at winning, but got taken out kind of by my championship rival's teammate. But winning Formula 3 to me was a big marker. And honestly, not being I've never had a winless year when we've not been racing full time. Yeah,
interesting.
So naturally, I hope to keep that going. But I think the way Michael tells that story is really accurate. And I remember getting the phone call from my manager telling me, the deal has changed. and was changing them. By the time I could even get Michael's number just to call him and be like, hi, I'm Jack, he'd already called me.
Yeah.
So we always just got off on the right foot. We got through what was a pretty difficult May initially, which wasn't through anybody's fault at MSR. And as Michael said, I think we just always we've kept realistic targets in the mind, and we've been able so far to stick to them and follow through on them. And I think that's why, at least from our side, we've always wanted to just keep this evolving, keep it growing, and that's the goal past this year, next year, and onwards. So I think when you find a situation you like, you want to try and hang on to it, right?
Yeah. Did you know of Mike Shank and his team before this link up came, or did you Google him quickly to find out what's he up to?
No, Michael didn't know me. The first time I ever saw Michael was actually at Justin Wilson's memorial at Indy. That was the first time I saw him, and I didn't even meet him there. But didn't you gave a eulogy, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
And then, but I had followed, honestly, the same kind of thing again when they won at Daytona, because I followed Justin.
Yeah.
So I knew who Michael was, understood, how much in North America, what racing, what success the team had. I'd never met him. And the first phone call we had was probably one that I hadn't expected to have when you were meeting, somebody that way.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that I loved about Michael straight from the get-go was, we had not been shuffled aside. I certainly didn't see it that way, but the situation had changed, and he made me feel realistic about where we were at, but we were going to get his and his whole team's 100% effort, and that was clear from the first conversation. So at that point, the deal changed, but I was like, okay, well, let's go make it happen then.
Hey,
seeing how it all played out, I feel like it probably was meant to play out that way for a reason.
Mike, did you at least know something of Jack before you guys hooked up? I mean, because I know you kind of keep your finger on the pulse of drivers, et cetera.
Yeah. I had watched the last, I guess, two. To be honest, though, only I really knew about with the 2 seasons in Indy Lights where he was contending for the championship.
Right.
And wins pretty much every weekend. So, always pay attention to those series all the time. Knew about him and knew Bob Perona, his kind of driver coach / manager. And it's just funny, one of the reasons we're having you on this week, Jack, and Tim, you and I talked about this. We're having 5 people on that have influenced MSR and kind of where we're at today. And, you can't have that story without having Jack involved from multiple levels. Think about this. He happened to be driving the first time we ever got a podium in IndyCar.
Yeah.
Never mind that. Take that back. I have a partner that bought an equity position in my company because of Jack Harvey. So, all right, take that one more. It just goes on and on, Tim. And we're not done yet, by the way. He and I have not accomplished. We're just getting started, actually. Even though it's taken us 3 years to get started, we got a lot to prove. I feel like I do. I know Jack does too.
Definitely.
Last year, Tim, when in our plan, last year we're doing 10 races. When we stopped, we ran the first 6 and we were 10th in the championship. It's exactly what I wanted us to be. Right? It was right where we were hitting goals, man. And and it was tempting to bust out of that and say, let's just keep running and put it on the credit card. But we stuck on the plan and we got it, right?
Yeah. I've got to get one of those racing credit cards, by the way, one of these days. I don't know. Are they metal? Are they like those metal kind of cards?
You don't want one, mate.
They have no limit, Tim.
I know.
That is the start of a bottomless pot.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what we get to. It's like, in this, Jack, we've talked about you. Maybe your ear started to itch a couple times because Mike and I've talked about you on this podcast a few times. But I've told him one of the things that impresses me about you is when your car's fast, you're fast. Meaning you go as fast as your car will go if you follow my drift. And number 2, you take care of your equipment. And I'm just wondering, where did that come along? I mean, where did you get that respect, or whatever you want to call it, for not only what you're doing, but for what the people who are putting you into a car, you know, some guys don't take care of the cars like guys like you do. Where did that respect for your equipment come from?
That's it really came from kind of an early age, because, you know, even when I was go-karting, you know, every time we crashed or we did something, me and my dad paid the consequence of it. And my dad being the way he was, you know, I didn't pay for it, but I certainly helped repair everything.
Yeah.
And then it was the hours and the time that you take to repair it, but then you've got to make it to the same standard it was before. So it's not just repairing, it's repairing, then re-prepping. Yeah. And I think it's, you know, and me and Michael chat about this, and there's, you know, like the first year, 6 races, the budget was extremely tight, and really, you know, crashing wasn't exactly not an option. But at some point you would have had to have paid the piper in a different place. But I go out there and I try and I give it 110, and I don't typically make, you know, goofy mistakes. You know, I normally try and stay composed, and, you know, of course, when you're on the limit, sometimes you go over it. Mm-hmm. But I would say I've never had like that reputation of being a crasher. You know, not from go-karting. You know, not through single-seater cars, and, you know, certainly not since I came to, you know, North America. And I've just never been that way. And, you know, so far I've got a CV that we're working on that says you can drive on the edge without crashing. Yeah. And that was kind of the goal, was to understand when risk came, and that risk normally comes the highest in qualifying, and the practice in the race at that point, maybe 99% is enough, because to be 100% seems like high risk. And I think that was the approach a lot of times last year. As Michael said, you know, we were achieving all the goals, and I think occasionally that was a case of we're achieving the goal today, that's enough.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, because I'm not trying to blow smoke up your tailpipe here, but one of the things that impressed me, you know, your finish at the Grand Prix of Indy last year, when you actually led the race, but you didn't overdrive the car, you know what I mean, to try to if you follow my drift, you kind of knew what you had, and you got the best out of what you had instead of trying to overdrive. You understand what I'm saying? When the challenge came. And that takes a lot of discipline, though, doesn't it? I mean, go ahead.
It does. I can say to people all the time, I mean, just because, you know, we can acknowledge what is a good result on the day doesn't mean that when the day comes where we feel like we've got a car that's going to win, we're not going to fully go for it. And I think that was more of it at Indy, where, you know, we weren't consolidating a good result. We were going after a good result. Yeah. Because we all had belief and confidence that we could do it. And, you know, I think there was also the appropriate moment to, and this was something my dad would always say, is, you know, gain a bit of respect and show a little bit of authority maybe in that moment, because you're surrounded by, you know, some really talented champions, you know, in the end, in Simon and in Scott. Yeah. But I wanted to go and hold my own and show them that, one, I wasn't going to be pushed about. Secondly, I will drive hard but fair. You know, and I think it's just about being realistic, because again, at no point did I want to see a podium position disappear. Yes. That being said, if the win was available, we were going to go for it.
Sure.
And I think it's just that balance.
By the way, Tim, no rain for that race, and we win the race.
Oh, I know. It's crazy, isn't it?
I certainly agree with you on that.
Tim, let me tell you a quick story here. You know, that race was a great race for Jack and us, and it was great. Qualifying was great. I knew the minute he got out of the car in practice that we had this. I said, man, I can tell you got this. We're going all the way. And I told him that when he got out. He says, what do you think? I'm like, we got this. Yeah. And he qualified third. He got it to second immediately. Now think about this, Tim. We've never, ever, Jack, we haven't practiced. We've never had the rain tires on an IndyCar ever. Okay? And here comes the rain with, I don't know how many laps to go, 15 laps to go. Here comes, and we're under yellow. And I'm like, Jack, I don't know what to tell you. We can win this race. We're right there. Just do what you can. And, you know, the slightest, he just kind of felt out the first 6 corners. And then he's like, okay, he understood his braking and his grip levels mostly. Yeah. He just started going forward from there.
Yeah.
And the tires were bald when they came in, like all the tread off the rain tires. And that third place will probably go down. That'll be one of those little footnotes nobody realizes that Jack had never been in an IndyCar in the rain ever.
Yeah, yeah.
Not to throw it off.
All right, Jack, you've been around Mike Shank, Meyer Shank Racing now for an extended period. What makes this team click? I mean, why is this team, do you think, special from the inside out?
The people, mate. Honestly, the kind of person that wants to be there, the kind of people that Mike and MB want to have there, and I don't know how I feel a bit weird telling him when he's like standing right there, but luckily he's not talking, so I'm not saying it directly to him. But they lead very much by example. Nobody is ever going to love MSR like Michael MB does. And it's that pride that they carry with it. And they're like amazing motivational speakers, because you go there and you come out and you're like, I believe, I'm in.
Yeah.
And it's not in a BS way or anything. It's like that. It's just we love this team. We want to do the best we can. We want you to do the best you can. We want to just do it all together. Very open, very family based, but with a seriousness that isn't a case of, hey, I'm not going to say you haven't done something when you have.
Yeah.
There's definitely a line of honesty and transparency, but I also think that's why you believe in it, because that conversation is brewing if people don't pull their weight. And I think the number one thing I think is that, I'll give you an example. On our very first test ever in the IndyCar was at Sebring in 2018. And at the end of that test, Michael was in the roof of in the trailer helping the guys load. And I was like, yeah, okay, respect. I don't just there, and I think they're the extra ingredients that I just think make the team special. Does it add us any performance? I have no idea.
Yeah.
Does it make the guys feel great? Yes. Does it make me feel great that we feel like you're doing it totally together? Yes. So I guess there's performance in it because it makes everybody feel good and makes everybody want to come to work and do their best.
You may not remember this, but there was one race, I think it might have been before Mid-Ohio last year, but I was asking you, how much time do you have to spend in a particular race car to really feel like you're part of that car and vice versa, and have you had a chance, do you think, to finally get that kind of feel, do you think? I mean, did the testing this preseason, even though we're going to talk about the canopy in a minute, but did the testing this preseason, did you feel different than you did 2 years ago in an IndyCar? Do you follow my drift?
Yeah, I definitely felt more relaxed. You understand the ebb and flow of the day a little bit better, how a few changes can make a big difference. And then you understand the testing program side of everything. And, you don't panic, if someone just pops in one lap, because sometimes you do that when, all the stars align or when the whatnot. And I think going to when we went to Texas earlier this year for pre-season testing, like the whole day one got rained out, and we went out the late morning and for the afternoon, and we were just like quick straight away, and it seemed to me it was calm, it was very methodical. We went to Sebring, same thing, like we were quick all day. No one panicked. There was a few moments where it was like, right, let's see what our new partnership is going to work out like with Andretti Technologies, and it was great. And I think the reason it was great was because I try and tell this to people who ask. Really, probably 80% of our team is the same. Yeah, if not a little higher number. We just have a slightly different engineering staff than before, but otherwise the core of our team is the same. And that's why as a team, I feel like we'd be successful no matter who our technical partner was, because, we had a great time with SPM at the time. The transition into Andretti was a seamless transition because not everything was changing. a lot of big things were changing. But in terms of just being in the car and being comfortable, I certainly feel it more and more.
Hey, Mike, same with you. I mean, is there a comfort factor that any team has to like find, when they move into a new endeavor? And do you think, from your vantage point, if y'all found that with Jack and it's, you know what I mean, in terms of just the dealing with the operations, the conversations, et cetera?
Oh yeah. Racing's very similar to what you're saying, meaning the longer you spend in it, the more comfortable you get with everything. Now, we're doing part-time seasons in 18, 19, and 20. We were just getting going when we got shut down this year. But Jack knows the car now. He knows what he's getting a much more clearer picture of what he wants. He's getting to experience another organization's engineering, which is awesome.
Oh yeah.
He can reference what we had compared to what we have now. Some good, some bad, doesn't matter. We have the comparison now. So in his brain, he's just building this book of information, Tim, right? Yeah. I remember at Portland with the SPM car, the car did this in turn 3, literally. He can pare it down to that compared to what it's doing this fall, right? And we can make, theoretically, Andy, our lead engineer now, and he can make quicker, more divisive decisions. So.
Is that right too? I mean, Jack, and how much different is this Andretti, pardon the expression, type of car compared to the one you had a year ago?
I would say some different. I remember last year, at the end of last year, after we had got everything announced and sorted, that's where our technical partnership was heading. I spent the off season trying to familiarize myself with everybody and start to build a rapport. Yeah. And, we would compare obviously the weekends and, kind of dissect them and stuff like that. And at one of the tracks, of which both cars were very fast, the setup couldn't have been any more different.
Huh. And
it was so different, it was almost like head scratching. But I think that's the nice thing is, last year on Merit, we were very quick, especially at a certain few tracks. Otherwise, I think we pretty much held our own everywhere. So now you're just going to take that and try and evolve it with a team that was quick everywhere and see, okay, which things really work for them, which things are going to really work for us, and then just try and marinate, a little bit of it together. But
yeah,
all teams have a different way of working. And I think it is, it's great for me to go and experience what other people are doing and getting results, and be able to compare them and try and figure out, I guess, what makes them all tick in their own way. So hopefully by the time we get on track, we're just going to be successful and keep contributing to everybody's success story, really.
Yeah, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Pretty much you have a Harvey stew cooking, right? You have a Harvey stew. The canopy, how much of a difference has that made for you? Give people who don't have the luxury of getting to sit in an IndyCar, and that's most of us. What's the view like? Do you like it? What's your take on it?
I think my personal take doesn't really matter too much. I think it's a lot safer, obviously. I don't think the vision was too heavily distorted. Actually, the hardest thing is when you're coming down pit lane, because you're looking out for your crew guy. Yeah. And there's that big halo down the front of the car. But when you're going at speed, you're going so fast, you kind of zone it out. I thought the initial feelings of it was quite warm inside, which was going to be a bit of a concern now when we get so many races in July and August. Ventilation is going to become even more important. If they can find ways to try and help with that, would be great. But I would say it was that step of safety, and that the canopy coming the way it did has been brewing for a little while. And at the end of the day, it's such a balance, right? Because you want to keep the sport pure, but the overwhelming fear I have is that I'd always rather have my friends with me. So I think safety to me trumps the purity of it, because at the end of the day, you're still bolting wheels on a car, engine straight on, and trying to drive as quickly as you can, and that to me feels pure enough.
Yeah, I don't mean to be macabre or anything, but now there's a little bit of Justin Wilson riding with you now, because that it's funny what it takes for changes to be made, but that was definitely one of them. And may you rest in peace. I mean, I just it's crazy. I look at those. I look at the Formula One and y'all's halos, and I go, seems like a driver would have a propensity to be cross-eyed by the time it's over with that bar right in front of you. But how long did it take you to adjust to that?
It didn't. She just jumped straight in, mate, and just cracked on.
Yeah.
You're going so fast that you zone it out anyway. I don't think it's just for Justin or anything like that. I mean, for anyone who remembers, Felipe Massa, had a spring get to him in Hungary. Henry Surtees lost his life in Brands Hatch.
Yes.
There's multiple things. It's the obvious solution to the only part not the only part, but one of the obvious parts of dangerous single-seater open cockpit racing.
Yeah, I was good. Yeah. Bobby Rahal one time described that it would be a crash in front of him, and he said it was like that World War II camera footage you would see from a Spitfire or something with pieces going everywhere, and you felt kind of lucky every time you got through it. I mean, was it like that for you?
Yeah. I mean, I felt awful about this. I got a pit lane violation at Indy, and we weren't super quick in May this year, and I cost us a handful of positions with this penalty. But as I came back on track, I got to turn 3, and a whole mighty shunt happened, and it took out like 5 cars. I ended up going through the grass and just dodging it. And it's at that moment you just you're seeing stuff happening in front of you, to the side of you, then stuff coming from like behind you forward, and just like you get through it and you take a breath and you realize you're safe. And I mean, my left leg started shaking, it was crazy.
Oh yeah, I would imagine, man. Well, hey, real quick, Jack, what is realistic? I mean, for you guys, I mean, from your vantage point, I know the idea would be, hey, win every race this year. But you know what I'm going. I mean, and I don't think you ever set your sights less than that. But what's kind of a realistic goal for you guys from your vantage point this season?
I think the thing that everyone needs to know is we go to the track putting our best foot forward, trying to win every weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I would say realistic goals for the year. Race by race specifically is tough to say, but I think to try and finish in the top 10 in points at the end of the season would be great. And if we're achieving that, then probably we've been on the podium, good handful of times. We've been a top 10 regularly on points. And if we're in the top 10 regularly in points and maybe achieving a couple of podiums here and whatnot, then hopefully you're fighting for wins too.
Yeah.
So, we haven't exactly gone, right, you need to hit this many top 10s and, this many top 5s and this many podiums and, win 3 races or, anything like that. But because in reality, if we're achieving the end goal, which is to try and be in the top 10, we're going to be achieving the other goals anyway.
Same with you, Mike. I mean, does that sound realistic to you?
Dead on. It's dead on.
Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, once again, on That Speed podcast has come to an end, and we really appreciate the input today from Jack Harvey, a driver who you need to pay attention to because given the right circumstances, he could have won a couple of times last year. I think it's going to happen. Heck, there was a couple of years ago he could have won the Indy 500, But hey,
keep trying.
This isn't about what happened last 2 years ago. This is what's about to happen, and there is a good sense of momentum, isn't it, with this team, Jack?
Oh, I think we've got massive momentum, from where we started to where we are and where I feel like we're heading. Like Michael said, I mean, this is all just really getting started.
Yeah.
And I think that leads you to almost like a point of getting like giddy with excitement because you're like, well, okay, let's see where we'll go.
Exactly. I can see 20 cars going for the same spot in turn 1 when the green flag drops here in a few weeks, man. It'll be interesting to watch, Jack. But hey, Jack, thanks for joining us, my man. And Mike, once again, on That Speed podcast, anything you want to add before we finish?
I just thank Jack for your time, man. I really do. And Tim, we'll have some more interesting folks on here and ready to go racing.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, for Mike Shank, this is Tim May. We'll see you with the next At Speed podcast.